So we're engaging autopilot at 30 miles an hour. This is a test of firmware version 8.1 Autopilot 2.0 hardware on a Model X 90D. This particular firmware is 17.17.4, and it is the first one to enable basically unrestricted autopilot on roads. So this means that it'll go up to 90 miles per hour depending on the speed limit. So it still limits it on local roads and regular 2-lane highways to just 5 miles over whatever the posted speed limit is via GPS. It doesn't seem to be detecting the camera. The camera's not detecting the road signs yet, as far as I can tell. And the reason why I know this is in Wyoming, the speed limit is actually 70 miles an hour on most of the highways, and it still only thinks that it's 65. Even though it actually changes really close to where the road signs are, it's obviously not reading them. It's going by a database instead. So this is right now on and off, no hands or hovering, to make sure to take over. And the autopilot's working great. We've actually got 2 lanes here. We're going 65 miles an hour. I'm going to try auto lane change. For me, it didn't seem to work on any local roads before this firmware. It almost seems to work on the interstate for the lane changing, which is different from Autopilot 1.0. The auto lane change used to work on regular highways. So yeah, it doesn't work right now. It only works on freeways for me on the auto lane change. This is a little bit longer in-depth video of the autopilot, and I'm going to show you the solid lines here. They're pretty solid. They're back in the equivalent of Autopilot 1.0 in terms of how solid the lines are. They're not wavily, wobbly or waving or kind of changing around. I got this on a mount, that way I can keep my hands free. But we're going to go on a curvy back road to kind of test out the capabilities a little bit better on this version of the autopilot. So I'm going to disengage here to get into the other lane and change onto the road. Turns right up here somewhere. It's kind of hard to catch. Okay, so this is Burma Road, and we'll probably use this a lot because it's a curvy road. It doesn't have great markings. It hasn't detected the road yet for autopilot. There we go. So we got autopilot on now. Sign says 35. It's saying 45 because it didn't detect the sign. The max it'll let you do is 45 on a road with no speed limit. So that's kind of interesting because it didn't detect the sign and it's not in the database. So it's just saying, yo, you can go 45. So far, line's pretty solid. It'll show that it was only detecting the center line and off and on the right line because there is no right line. We're just going off of the left line, and it's doing pretty solid. There's a vehicle coming up here, so I'm going to make sure I'm ready to take over. I found with autopilot in its current state on these back roads and things that you really want to pay super close attention for our oncoming traffic. And luckily here in Wyoming, there's just not a lot of traffic, so you can go miles without seeing another vehicle. So it's a little bit wobbly. It's kind of ping-ponging around just a little bit, but I don't know if I'd get pulled over if it's that bad, because the road itself isn't great. But I'd say it's passable. Like you could be riding in a car and it could be going like this, and we wouldn't go off the road or run into anybody on the left lane. kind of driving like a 12-year-old or something. But not bad for only one lane or one line and no shoulder to speak of. All right, so we got a speed limit sign 45. It's saying max 35 right now. We'll go up to the max 45 mile an hour speed limit. Coming up on our first big turn on this road. And it handled it pretty good. Gonna come up on another turn here. This is not super crazy. So it's saying our speed limit's 55 now. But it won't let us go 55 because it didn't detect the sign and it's not in the database. So it's limiting us to 45 miles per hour. So that's a little bit of a bummer. Handled that turn okay. I'd say, from what I remember of my Autopilot 1.0 on this road of my Model S, it actually handled the corners a little bit better, but the 1.0 would read the speed limit signs, and I would be able to go 55 right here. Still restricted to the 45. We got another corner coming up here. Feels like it's handling it pretty good. I don't think I'm going outside the lines at all. Got another corner coming up there. You can't see the turn, like visibly, from where my eyes are at. But it's handling it pretty good. I don't feel like my life's in danger much. Oh, we got somebody coming up behind us here, so I'm gonna have to speed up since the speed limit's actually 55. The thing to note is you can actually press the accelerator, and I'm going 55 with autopilot still engaged, but obviously it's not going to do auto braking, and it's not really real cruise control, but the auto steer still works. So like I'm going 58 right now, and it's still doing the auto steer. need to find a spot to turn around. Or maybe I'll just take this Missouri Valley Road and go back another way. There's an error message right now saying accelerator pedal pressed. Cruise will not brake. Again, auto steer is still engaged and it's doing all the steering. I have my hands on the wheel, ready to take over. Just I've got a vehicle behind me in oncoming traffic, so I can't really put the camera down to see the instrument panel. I don't really have a mount that can see both very well. I have to keep taking it off the magnetic mount. Alright, this is going to be an interesting road. Looks like we're going to lose our lines. We lost our shoulder on the right. The lines are faded. And they're going to be gone on the right here. So we're back to just having one line on the left. It's a little bit wobbly on the display. And we're driving fairly similar to how it's being depicted. It's not super straight, but we're not going off on the edges on the right at all. Oh, there we go. It was the first time this whole trip we went over the line on the left. So I would not fall asleep while this is driving at this point. That could have ran us into oncoming traffic. So I'm going to hold the wheel a little bit tighter here as we have oncoming traffic, just to be safe, because a moment ago it did go into the left lane for a second. The other note is I have never been on this road before with this car. So I don't think I've even been on this road with my last car. So there's no data, I guess, that has been sent back to Tesla on this road. So it's navigating this for the first time using the autopilot sensors, the cameras. And it's not doing a bad job. Only tried to kill us once so far. And it did it slowly enough that you could tell that it was starting to swerve. And if I had been holding the wheel tight, it would have been fine. I'm just hovering right now just to make sure I can take over if need be. And we're coming up on a stop sign, so we'll have to disengage autopilot. This will just be the second time this entire trip that we disengaged autopilot in order to I guess there isn't a stop sign here. This is a corner. Let it go. Here's our stop sign. Well, thank you guys for joining me on this long demo of autopilot. I think it's really exciting because we were using at least 2 cameras in the last firmware. I'm going to conduct a test later today where I'm going to put some tape over the cameras and see if it affects the autopilot at all. We'll see if we have 3 cameras running. I just engaged autopilot again. It detected the speed limit as 65 miles an hour. I'm able to go 70 miles an hour. The road markings are awesome. I don't think I've ever been on this road before. It's handling it like a champ. We're going super smooth, super straight, no wobbly lines. This is a 2-lane undivided highway, or is it a 1-lane undivided highway? Anyways, we have oncoming traffic at 70 miles an hour, autopilot. I mean, we don't actually have any oncoming traffic at the moment. This is Wyoming, so there's like nobody out here. Oh, here's somebody. So if any of you have been watching these autopilot videos where people just record how it works, it's kind of boring. I think it's like crazy exciting that we live in a day and age where we've got self-driving cars. I mean, the very first autopilot they put out for the last Autopilot 1, when you had good markings like this one right here, where it's pretty doggone reliable. I mean, you could go without, you know, holding the steering wheel for literally like an hour or two. I did it between Las Vegas and Salt Lake, and it worked pretty doggone good. Right now, it looks like you gotta really kind of hold the wheel about once a minute. The longest I've gone on this one, when I was trying it out yesterday, was I think 2 minutes. But really, whenever there's any kind of lack of data where it doesn't feel any confidence, it tells you right away to, you know, grip the steering wheel. Right now, I said I'm kind of hovering over the steering wheel so I can just take over. But I'm just kind of seeing how long it goes before it asks me to put my hand on the wheel. So right now, we're going for however long it's going to let us do this before it says to grip the steering wheel tight. I just reset the trip counter. There's oncoming traffic, so I got my hands ready to like grab the steering wheel just in case. Super close. Okay, now we're getting the message saying to hold the steering wheel, and it's flashing. Hold steering wheel. We've gone about 1.5 miles, and the car is slowing down. Pretty doggone slow, and still steering. It's turning on the hazard lights. And it says auto steer will be unavailable for the rest of this drive. So, no autopilot. So I think what I have to do to reset it so I can use autopilot again is just kind of pull over, put it in park. And we have autopilot again. What I remember from the last version of Autopilot 1.0 in December that I had, you could go about 5 miles before it would disengage the autopilot. So Tesla's being pretty cautious right now. on making sure people have their hands on their wheel, and they should. It's really not that great, especially on these roads that don't have great markings. Right there, we just only went about half a mile before it asked me to hold the wheel. We probably got a good year or so to go before it's good enough that you don't really have to hold the steering wheel constantly to be ready to take over. Elon Musk's saying 2 years before you can sleep in the car. He's confident that at the end of the year they'll be able to demo the full self-driving from LA to New York, and he says it's not going to be a predetermined route. He says really it can be any way. You know, they can change the route at the last minute and still be able to complete it. So it's a true, you know, autonomous driving. He says nobody will have to touch this. Nobody will have to take over the controls. It'll be interesting. I think he even said nobody will have to touch the steering wheel. So I don't know if they're going to have a special firmware for that drive, because they're making you touch the steering wheel a bunch right now. I'm disengaging the autopilot to do the stop that's coming up here, but I guess we could engage it again for this corner because it's a little ways away. And again, it didn't detect the 45 mile an hour marker, which is kind of scary because again, like say you were sleeping right now, it didn't detect to slow down, that there's an upcoming stop sign, and that we'd be going right into this end of this T right here, right into the piece of earth. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and end this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I will be posting some news videos soon. And now that the weather's actually really nice and we've got some almost parity with the 1.0 autopilot hardware, I'm going to do my review of my Tesla Model X. I've been getting some footage over the past couple months, and I think I'm going to have kind of a unique review from a Wyoming perspective, where we don't have the range and we've got the off-roading and you know, kind of a different climate. So thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you like these videos, and we'll see you again next time. So this is autopilot running on a 2-lane or no lane road. It's actually picking up the markers just a little bit. It's trying to kill me now. So even though it detected it and it let me enable it, it's kind of going by the cracks in the road and the dirt along the sides. And you know, it almost works, but you really got to watch it.